Hi, gang. Good evening. It's Born. I'm here with you tonight in my midnight armchair. Born for such a time. We did not need our blankie because it was 81 degrees today, believe it or not. May and 81 degrees. So we don't need our blankie, but we are going to pick up again on part 3 now of Legalism, Freedom, and God's Laws. And we are studying the laws of God so that we understand what the traditions of men are, or the fences that men put around those laws to control people. And in order to know where our freedoms are, we need to know what God's laws are. And so we have been going through the 10 Commandments to find out what God actually said we should and shouldn't do. And we're on commandment number 5. We are on honoring your father and your mother. And I was very curious about this because we all know that we have had good fathers, good mothers, and bad mothers. We've had good authorities and bad. And how do we handle that? What are the good things that can come from honoring? How do we handle it if maybe they're not so honorable who we're supposed to be honoring? Are we supposed to honor those people? So we're gonna dig into this a little bit tonight, and this is subtitled "Why Should We Honor Father and Mother?" And the commandment number 5 is in Ephesians 6:2. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be prolonged upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. And the footnotes in the Geneva said this also applies to all authorities God has placed over us. So it's kind of serious. So, well, of course, which one of the 10 Commandments isn't serious? But this one comes with a promise that your days will be prolonged on the land that the Lord has given you. And another verse with the same 10 Commandments says that it will be well with you and that your days will be prolonged. So you won't just live a long time, they will be good days. The previous commandments told us how to deal with God. 1 through 4 was dealing with God. This one tells us how to get our house in order. It tells us that there are blessings to be had for obedience and punishments for disobedience. All 10 Commandments, of course, are to be taken very seriously, as they are gifts to us for the best life. A lot of times I think people look at the requirements of God and they think that maybe they would be restrictive and they don't want to live that way, but they're actually gifts for the best possible life, standards for living, ways to treat other people, ways to expect to be treated, and how to handle it when things are difficult. And so they are also warnings to us against the worst kind of life. If you break these commandments, they can certainly break you. Rather than them going away, you're just going to get crashed on these rocks if you don't obey these 10 Commandments, whether you're a Christian or not. Sow the wind, reap the whirlwind. If you pursue certain actions in life, they're going to come certain consequences. And believe it, they will come. They may not come suddenly, but they will come, and they will also come on family members, friends, ancestors, descendants. Somebody's going to suffer from the breaking of these commandments, like the golden rules. Same idea. The family unit in the USA has been attacked, maligned, broken up, torn down, and ripped apart. The devil himself has aided in the depopulation, demoralization, and denigration of our society by attacking the family unit and its hierarchy. The devil has gotten women to believe that murdering their unborn prodigy for convenience is a right to be fought for. He has gotten men to believe that their masculinity is toxic, their role in the family is the stuff of mockery, and their morality and faithfulness to their wife is to be discarded. He has gotten young people to believe that they are to disrespect their parents, their elders, and their authorities in rebellion and disdain. I remember my mom mentioning many of the sitcoms of the 80s and 90s had the father figure as kind of a court jester, kind of the bumbling idiot, and nobody had respect for him, and he just caused trouble. And it was maybe the teenagers who really knew what was going on, and they kept everything bad from happening. And so they began to isolate the father figure from being a leader to someone that everyone else had to almost put diapers on. And so you began to see this. My mom used to mention this, and I thought, yeah, I can see that. I had no idea how far it would go, how far it would get taken to the point where masculinity is considered toxic. You know, I didn't realize just how far my state had fallen. On Truth Social, it asks for your location. Well, nobody really wants to give their location on Truth Social for obvious reasons, so we all kind of come up with something clever. And I wrote behind enemy lines because I live in a deep blue part of a blue state. Now, when I was growing up, it was not that way. I believe that through multiple corrupt ways, our votes have been stolen here. But there are some pretty leftist, uh, left leaning, chaotic thinking people around me. And so the family unit here is so different. It's so difficult for me to describe the men who are here. The women have lost their femininity. The men have lost their masculinity. When I go to states like Wyoming, I'm shocked. Montana, I'm floored because the men are men. The men look like men. The men act like men. The men wear jeans and the flannel shirt and maybe a cowboy hat if that's appropriate. They don't have the athletic, casual, polyester stretch pants with the sandals and they just are. It's stark. That's all I can say. It's stark. And here's the other thing that's very interesting to me. The children here are not happy. They are loud, they are rebellious, and I'm not saying blanket statement, but this has been creeping and getting so much worse that you don't really, if you go into a restaurant, you try to find the place where there are no children because they will climb over the back of your seat. They will scream through the entire dinner. They're angry. They'll run around the restroom. They'll slap their a restaurant. They'll slap their mom. Um, and they're not happy. And the playgrounds here, they're just screaming, crying, there's rage, there's shrieking. When I go into other states, because I'm trying to hold the line here in my state, I'm not willing to just give it up. But when I go into other states and I'm sitting by a playground in the park, the children are laughing. The family unit is more intact in the center of the country, it seems, in the red states, in the states that have not been allowed to be taken over by this leftist, socialist, Marxist, communist doctrine. They're laughing. They're happy. They have a mom and a dad, and even if they only have one, that one has some rules and some boundaries and controls, and they know they're loved. These kids here seem to be full of angst. And I remember as a kid here, because I grew up here, I remember as a kid that when Petey started to cause a scene in the restaurant, Dad would grab him up and take him out the door. And Petey was scared because he knew Dad was going to lay down the law, and Petey probably wasn't coming back in. He was probably going to be outside in the car because they were not going to let Petey ruin your dinner. Well, Petey will take over the restaurant here, and everyone else just has to put up with it. But when I go into the states who have held on to their family dynamics, held on to the Ten Commandments, held on to God's laws and the family unit, when Petey starts to squeak, Dad grabs him like he's got a little baby pig, and he hauls him out like a little farm animal, and the Petey is like, oh, and he hauls him out, and Petey does not come back. Dad doesn't come back. And the restaurant has respect. There's dignity, there's quiet, because we all paid to be there. And this is something we have to get back to. We have to get back to rules, standards, regulations, boundaries where we have respect for each other and we feel cared about and we feel that we can kind of rely on what society's going to be like. And so Hats off to you guys, red states, and I'm coming this summer again because when I go on vacation, I love to come and see you. I relate to you, but we can't give up our blue states. We've got to fight to get them back. So, if we pick up back here, Satan has gotten the modern family to believe that when the kids are 18, they are to be thrown out. When grandma's 85, she's to be sent away. When mom is old and no longer wrinkle free, dad can replace her with a younger model. I don't know if you guys remember the Walton Mountain series where there was the big old Victorian house or the big old farmhouse, and grandma and grandpa lived there, and mom and dad lived there, and all the kids lived there. And they said people live longer when they have a family unit all living in the same home where grandma's fixing the shirts that got torn, mom's making the breakfast, the kids will feed the animals, and they come together and they'll maybe watch TV together or have dinner together. And something went wrong when colleges, definitely colleges, called the kids away from home, several states away. They get a job there. They don't see their parents. The parents don't see the grandchildren. They certainly don't live in the same big house. And if you live with your family, they'll say, "Oh, you're a loser because you're living with your parents, or your parents are living with you," or that's the way it used to be. And you can save a lot of money that way and a lot of resources and pool your efforts, especially in the times as hard as they are. And that's the way it used to be. And grandma would give counsel to the granddaughter, or grandpa would go and show the grandson how to fire that rifle or catch that fish. Or it was a beautiful thing, and we've lost so much of our history, our culture, things that were important and things that worked. And I just really would like to get back to a lot of that. I don't know how practical all of it is, but we certainly need to not think it was a bad thing. And next to the indulgent, permissive, socialistic, and unrealistic way that society operates today, God's commands may seem overly strict, but they were never meant to be legalistic, but to help us live our best lives and to draw us closer to Him. And really to get along better with people. If you are kind and you have respect, it will take you everywhere in a decent society. It's just been a watchword for me, and it's just worked so well for me. Because doesn't everyone want to be respected and have someone be kind to them? We're people. To honor your father and mother specifically means to prize highly, care for, show respect for, and obey them as your authorities. The Hebrew word for honor, and I don't know how to pronounce this, but it looks like kabod, means to be heavy or weighty. And the Greek word means to set the value of. The meaning of honoring someone then is to give weight to or grant a position of respect, there's respect, and even authority to them in our lives. Ephesians 6:4. Now, the kids don't have all the responsibility. There are instructions for the father here. Ephesians 6:4. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in instruction and information of the Lord. And in the footnotes it said, it is the duty of fathers to use their fatherly authority moderately and to God's glory, not to be heavy-handed, not to be overbearing, not to be abusive, moderately. Such information and precepts as being taken out of God's book are holy and acceptable to Him. Remember the McGuffey readers in the little one-room schoolhouses across our country? They were based on biblical principles. 10 Commandments on the walls in the courtrooms. Boy, we need to get back to that. Respect is a two-way street, and there can be no love without it. Fathers are not to frustrate their children, not to abuse them, whether that be mentally, physically, or emotionally. They are to bring them up in the teachings of the Lord, not lead them into immorality, drunkenness, examples of unethical behavior, or even just be a bad example. The do as I say, not as I do parent. Fathers are to be an example to their sons of how men should behave, and to daughters of what kind of man to choose. If a father tries to get their child to break one of God's laws, that child must obey God over their father. And this deals with any authorities. If any of your authorities tries to get you to break one of God's laws, God is your ultimate authority and you have to follow him no matter what, and it will work out okay for you in the end. So that child must obey God over their father, and their father has only themselves to blame. The umbrella of spiritual protection. We used to see an image of the umbrella of protection, and it was just kind of a visual that we could get an idea of. So we have an umbrella with its stick, we have the parents holding it, and the children are under it, and God is over it, and the rain comes down and hits the umbrella and it runs off because the father has set up a protective umbrella. If the father tries to get their child to break one of God's laws, the umbrella of spiritual protection has been torn, and consequences will come down like cold rain on that family. If we wonder why the family units are not working, we should look to the authorities and see what has gone wrong. In ancient Israel, family was the primary unit of social and religious life. The community maintained its stability and continuity via respect for parents. I was just talking to my friend on Truth Social who goes by the handle of Indy, and he was saying that in the Tsalagi or Cherokee Nation, there is no disrespect for elders is ever permitted, ever at all. And I believe the Chinese culture is similar because they know that those people have lived a long time, they've experienced a lot, they are treasured, they have the tribal knowledge in their heads, they have the history, they can teach us, and they have worked for us until they are now fragile and vulnerable, and it is our job to take care of them. Ancient Israel felt the same way. The ancient societies knew this. The biblical theme of authority and submission to parents is part of a larger framework of respecting God-ordained structures. In biblical narratives, honoring one's parents brings generational blessings and transmissions of faith. God has chosen parents as the primary educators and spiritual guides for their children and are responsible for teaching them the ways of the Lord. And if you want to learn more about this, you can go to Deuteronomy 6:6-7. Scripture says that if parents raise up a child in the way they should go, when they are old, they will not depart from it. This is a promise to parents that if they raise their kids to respect God and their fellow men, they will return to these ways when they are older and responsible for themselves and have families of their own. Parents, you are raising your own caregivers. Put extra time and attention into them, as it will pay off for you in the long run. We like our little mercenary things that we get out of this, don't we? So for this one, if you take good care of your little ones you're caring for, they'll care for you well, and they will respect you and love you. This commandment reinforces the importance of a Bible-based family. God said in the Garden of Eden that he wanted Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply, which would eliminate same-sex marriage, wouldn't it? The aberrant LGBTQ blah agenda is a direct and dangerous assault on the family unit, its purpose, and its survival. 2 Timothy 3:1-3 shows what life will be like in the end times without a good family unit. This know also, that in the last days shall come perilous times. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, cursed speakers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, LGBTQ, truce breakers, false accusers, which is what Satan does, doesn't he? Intemperate, fierce, no lovers at all of them which are good. They will not like those around them who show them up by being good and moral and having good character. Haven't you noticed that? It's like a sister board. So when you have a broken board and you strap a sister board to it that's straight, it has to straighten it up. So they don't like someone who shows that it can be done well and it can be done properly, because it makes them look very crooked. We can avoid this kind of hideous end if we choose and determine now to honor our earthly authorities that God has placed over us, and in so doing honor God himself. Ephesians 6:3, that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest live long on the earth. I love this promise, that your life will go well and be long if you will simply honor your parents and those things that they have taught you. A good life. And so after we're done here, we're going to move on to part 4, which will be the 6th commandment, and we'll see how long that takes. But I wanted to do kind of a shorter one for you because I know some of you probably listen to this when you're on your way to work or uh, downloading the podcast for your run in the morning. And so we're going to kind of try to keep it down to a little bit shorter so that it's not so much of an investment of time. But I really appreciate that you've come and that you've subscribed and that you're watching and that you're supporting me. It's very important to me because I just really would like to hope that these are helpful to people. So you guys have a good night and we'll see you real soon.